Okay, welcome back from the break to the Being Found show. I had a chance about a week ago to interview a Pinterest expert named Kate Ahl. I'll tell you what, that was a great interview. I learned a lot about Pinterest, and I want to play that interview for my audience. So I don't want to waste a lot of time here. Let's just get right into that interview. So this is probably going to be one of your most 101 discussions into Pinterest because I am like dying to figure it out, right?
Okay.
And I don't get it. I've spent my whole life understanding this stuff, and Pinterest is eluding me. So I'm going to ask some probably really basic questions. And like you said, we're just going to go where it goes, okay?
Great. That works for
Okay.
me.
All right. Well, Kate, why don't you officially tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I am Kate Ahl, and I run a Pinterest management company called Simple Pin Media. We're based out of Portland, Oregon, and our goal is to manage our Pinterest presence or our business's Pinterest presence for them so they can grow their business online. So we basically take over everything because they don't understand Pinterest and we do. And
Right?
so our goal is to extend their reach using that social platform because a lot of people don't get it.
No. And so do you actually do the creative? You do scheduling, the whole thing, right?
Yeah, we do scheduling. We don't do as much creative. We have very few clients that require that from us. A lot of them are really good at their creatives.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're able to get a handle on it, or they're able to hire that out to something like Upwork or Fiverr or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So then we take their creatives and we do all the scheduling, strategy, all of that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna jump around.
Okay.
Uh, But one of the first thing that's completely caught me off guard while I was doing research for this, um, I also was having my clients coming to me telling me, Joe, it's crazy. Right now, Pinterest is my number one source other than Google. Or they're saying we're not putting any effort into Pinterest and we're converting more sales from leads coming from Pinterest than every other source. I don't even get it. How is that happening?
I know. Isn't it crazy? A lot of people
Yeah,
think it's the platform for food and weddings and hair
right.
and nail. It's kind of like the girl platform, right? And
Yeah,
so a lot of people do open up their analytics and they're shocked and they think, how in the world is this happening?
yeah,
And what I always tell people is that Pinterest has evolved a lot in the last 7 or 8 years that they've been around. And what they really want to be is a search and discovery platform, kind of like a search engine, but not, they would be careful to call them, they wouldn't call themselves that.
okay.
And they're also careful to straddle that role of social media platform. They
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be known as that. So Pinterest really is this place that people go to plan, curate ideas, or to save things for the future. So if you're a typical user and you come across a helpful article or video, the best place online to save something is Pinterest. And then when you save it, everybody else sees it. So then
Mm-hmm.
somebody else might find it helpful. So it's become this place that you go for ideas and you get images. Whereas Google, you go there, you search, and you'd see a lot of text. But people
Right.
are they visually connect with people, and Pinterest provides the ability to do that really easily.
Okay, so let's try to break it down into two major types of interest in Pinterest. One is I'm a business and I want to use it to make money, right? Or to engage with my audience. The other is that I'm a Pinterest user because, like you said, I'm a curator. I'm gonna find the things I'm interested in. I've even now started finding all kinds of stuff, and I don't even know what these boards say about my personality. By the way, um,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother discussion. But
Yes.
okay, so we've
Yes.
got
Yes.
those two groups, right? And so at the high level, I get the person who's curating, looking for information. As a business, my first question is, so how am I using this? Do I want to get people to pin me, or do I want to be pinning interesting things that I wish people saw? How is this? How's that basic idea work for a business?
Okay, so let's take an example because I think it's always best to have like a tangible example. So let's say you're
Okay.
selling tents and you're an outdoor company and your
Mm,
specialization is creating tents for families,
right.
ones that don't break and they're big.
Mm-hmm.
So your goal is not only to show your helpfulness by getting people to pin your pins and eventually buy it, but
Mm-hmm.
also creating on your boards a little bit targeting that lifestyle. So maybe
Uh-huh.
you don't necessarily do any content around camping tips with kids, but somebody else does that you could partner with. And then
Mm-hmm.
eventually, even they could be a partner that talks about your tent. So you're
Mm-hmm.
doing a little bit of both. You're showcasing your content, but also kind of showcasing other stuff. So if I hop onto your Pinterest profile, which is your Pinterest page,
Mm-hmm.
I see you're about tents, but you're
Mm-hmm.
also about families. You're not about backpacking because very few
Mm-hmm.
families go backpacking,
Right.
but you're definitely geared towards the family that goes camping.
Okay, so I was listening to an interview with you. It takes me to the very next question. I have notes, but I knew this was going to happen. I knew that you were going to lead me through this. Uh, so I was listening to an interview with you, Manly Pins, the guy who does
Oh,
you.
yeah, manly Pinterest tips.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Manly Pinterest tips. Um, and he was talking about this very same thing about the how he's got the persona and he's doing things around the idea. And I started wondering if you're doing that, does Pinterest also work where you can specifically sell the product on Pinterest, which I think you can now, can't you?
Yeah, you
And you
can.
guys, you started talking about that. So I want to talk about that a little bit. But before that, how does somebody search for through Pinterest where they would find your boards? Is it, are they searching for camping stuff? Are they searching for specific images and then they find a pin, an image, and then they go to your board? Is that how it works, or can they actually find your profile?
Yeah, they can do both. So I'll back
Okay.
up a little bit. So the
Okay. Good.
way that Pinterest is kind of designed is their algorithm is called a smart feed. And what this is designed to do is that the end user, you looking for this tent, whatever you're searching on a daily basis or pinning, Pinterest clues in to know, oh, they're interested in these types of topics. So if anywhere else on Pinterest these things are pinned, we want to funnel it towards your main home feed, right? So
Right.
they're doing this based on keywords.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's going onto Pinterest and they're searching tents for families,
Mm-hmm.
if you, as the person who sells tents, has those words on your pins, your pin
Mm-hmm.
descriptions, Pinterest goes, oh, this matches this person.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're really trying to match up through keyword and eventually image search.
Right.
Pinterest is huge into developing searches. So if somebody hovers over a tent image somewhere, even on the web, they want to pull up your tents to show this person. So it's really designed to work based on keywords, which is Google. That's kind of the way it
Mm-hmm.
works. So I'm careful to say Pinterest is like Google, but it's very similar operating procedure in that sense.
Okay. So I'm literally on a mission to figure out what's changed for businesses, what stayed the same, and what can you do about it. And I think a lot of times when I'm talking to an expert, I'm pretty aware of the reality that they're talking about, the application, they're talking about the methods. And so I just got to keep reminding you and my audience that is not the case with Pinterest. So as you bring these things up, as the dots are connecting in my head, I want to share them because when you just said it's like Google and the keywords and things like that, I'm looking at my um, pins and what Pinterest is suggesting to me. I'm also noticing I'm getting emails where it's pushing out pins to me. So it's interesting because you say it's like Google, and it is, but Google doesn't do that for you unless you ask for alerts or something like that. But basically, Google doesn't help connect the dots for you. Google doesn't go out there and try to find out what you want and share it into your email so you can find out more information about it. And I wonder if that right there isn't one of the major reasons it's becoming so helpful to businesses. That full loop of
Yeah.
finding interesting stuff and pushing it out.
That's a really good point. And it's something that I think is to Pinterest's advantage because
Mm-hmm.
they do really want you to connect with the platform. They want you to use it to buy things like, Jeff and I were talking about in that podcast about buyable pins.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, buyable pins you can get with any product if you use Shopify or BigCommerce, but the way
Mm-hmm.
you buy something on Pinterest is very easy, but it's not quite natural. So, we are very accustomed to buying on Amazon. I
Right.
think what Pinterest is trying to get you to think that way because how the Pinterest user thinks is a little bit short term, but a lot long term, which is why you get long term traffic. So a lot of your users might open up their analytics and see this was a pin that was pinned 6 months ago. It's
Mm-hmm.
still bringing traffic, or a year
Mm-hmm.
ago. Then it's because it keeps cycling through the system because people find it useful and helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
that's also an advantage for marketers is your pin could get picked up and it could drive traffic for a year. Whereas
Right.
where else can you see something drive traffic for a year?
Right. And it's more of a curated experience with Google and content on the site. You're competing. You're not working with other pieces of content. You're totally competing to get up there. What I'm noticing as you're describing is Pinterest. You're almost more collaborating so that you're included with pins, but or on boards and things like that. But also I'm looking at a myriad of different images that are all different but have some relationship together. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
not specifically competing. If my pin was on this board, I'm not specifically competing with any one of them because
Right?
it's all related, right? That's very
Yeah.
different compared to the fight for number 1, 2, or 3 in Google.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting is that Pinterest hasn't given us a whole lot of information about how you rank higher in search when somebody
Mm-hmm.
searches for things. So you are left to figure out, what is my audience engaging with? How do I
Right.
create more of that? If this image with these certain colors, or not using faces, or long shot, or whatever it is
Right.
doing really well, that means that's working. Whereas with Google, you're trying to rank high, and there's all these ways to kind of game the system, but you don't want to game the system.
Right.
We
Right.
haven't quite figured that out with Pinterest. There isn't really a way to game the system.
Yeah. Okay. So you brought up also in that interview targeting,
Yes.
targeting your customer. Okay. So I just got to step back for a second and go, how? We're going to take a break from the interview, take a break to listen to our sponsors, and we'll be right back.